Hey guys, thanks for joining me. It's a beautiful sunny day here in the greenhouse. It's a great day to get this hydroponic grow kit here from Sucseed set up. It has everything that you need to get started with hydroponic growing inside. We're going to go through the list of things that come with it. We're going to set it up. All that next. Stay tuned. The hydroponic grow kit that we have here from Sucseed is a pretty simple kit. It's well made. It looks like basically it's a strong box design. It has a strong box for the reservoir it's used to hold the hydroponic fluid, which is water with nutrients. And it comes with everything else that you need to get going. So we have a growing medium, which is rock wool. We have air stone, pH strips, air hose for the stone, and a little air pump that comes with it, as well as an analog timer. That analog timer actually is for the LED grow light that comes with it. Now there's a stand for this. I don't have it here in this particular setup right now, but I am going to assemble it and include it with the setup. It comes with various growth mediums, micronutrients. This one's magnesium and some nitrogen, and there's a growth medium A, a growth medium B, and then there's also a flower booster, which is 033. So it comes with basically everything you need, as well as the growing cups, which actually go down into the holes that are cut into the strong box, as well as seeds. So we can see how simple it is. Basically, these are the instructions to get growing. These are the instructions to put the light stand together. So it's all pretty simple. So today we're going to actually go through everything that's on this list. Like I said, it's all really simple. There's 5 main steps. So in a 5-step process, it's going to get you from this to growing. So I'm going to use these instructions now. I'm going to follow through them one by one. We're going to set all this up so we can actually get growing. All right, so step number 1, fill your grow garden tank with water up to 3 inches from the top. Pretty simple. I'm just going to fill this guy up. I have our hose in here from outside. I'm going to get this guy going. It's probably going to take maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get it full, and then we're going to come back and we're going to follow through to step number 2. Okay, so this is now filled within 3 inches of the top is what it recommends. Step number 2, add nutrients. 1/4 cup of Optimum A and stir thoroughly. 1/4 cup of Optimum B and stir thoroughly. So that's the next step. Luckily, I actually have a measuring cup out here. So I'm going to measure off Optimum A. And that's 1/4 cup into the water. So I'll stir that around, get nice and mixed up. Next one is 1/4 cup of Optimum B. Going to give that a nice stir. Step number 3 is pretty critical. I mean, plants tend to have a response to pH, so this has to do with pH. We got to be very careful here. Dip 1 pH test strip into the nutrient water and reference the color chart on the pH test kit. Opens up just like kind of matchsticks, and it has these colors. So the test strips, I guess, tell you the pH based on the color chart. Tear off one strip. Try not to get my fingers on the part that's actually going to go down into the solution. All right, so that's as much as you need. It says tear off a strip from the pack, dip it into the solution under 1 second, or with a drop or dip a small amount of liquid for a more accurate result. So it says shake off the excess. There's not really any excess on it. And now we just need to wait. The value next to the color on the chart is your pH. You need to read it at this point before it dries. So we're going to have a look at this together. We're basically at 7. So this is 7 compared to 7. So that color's pretty good. That's good. Our water is pH neutral. We don't really need to make any adjustments. Now they say that the ideal pH is somewhere between 6 to 7. Well, you know what, I'm not going to fool around with trying to acidify it. They say you can by adding some lemon juice, but it's at 7, so I'm pleased. We'll just move on with the next step. Step number 4 says cut the tube 3 inches from one end, reconnect your tubing using the valve. Run the long end of the tube through the small corner hole in the garden kit, which is what we're going to do in the lid. Attach the air stone, submerge, and place at the bottom of the tank. Connect the short end of the tube to the black pump. Please refer to the manufacturer's manual for detailed instructions and safety. Keep pump away from water. So that's one thing we need to watch out for here, because if this spills and it goes on top of the pump, maybe it could cause a problem. They're telling you to keep it away from water, so that's what we're going to try our best to do. Here's our air hose, and here is the air pump. So we're probably going to situate this up above, so that way there's no doubt that it won't get wet. Now the instructions tell you to cut the hose 3 inches on one end, but it looks like that's already been done for us. So we just need to work it in over the end of the pump, like so. Like that. And we're going to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room here on the cord, because our plug-in for this is in right here. And there is, it looks like this thing is just always on, so that's fine. So we're going to situate that here, like so. And this air hose actually needs to connect to the stone. So we're going to do a little untangle here, because it's a bit of a mess. Okay, here we go. So here is our air stone, and it just connects onto here. But now we're going to need to pry that hose open enough, you see, to push that hose on there. Now we can't do that right yet, because it has to go down through the hole in the corner. So I'm going to arrange this here like this. I'm going to place the air hose down through the hole and get it onto here, so that it makes a nice seal. It's on there about probably around 1/4 inch or so. That'll make a good seal. And it says place the air hose so that it's sitting on the bottom of the tank. So that's easy. We're going to stick it out here in the middle. We're going to drop it to the bottom. Put the hose in there like that. There we go. So that's it. So that's now the pump hooked up. Make sure you don't have any kinks in the hose like I'm doing here. That's the pump hooked up. We got the air stone down in the water. The tank is now filled. It has a good pH, and we have the 2 optimum nutrients put in there, the part A and the B. So now this is the part. Okay, we need to get growing. Okay, so it says fill each net pot halfway full with rock wool. Dip the net pot with rock wool into the nutrient water. Put pots in the insert holes on the yellow lid. So supposedly these go in here like that, like so. And it says ensure that the bottom of the net pots are skimming the water in the grow garden. And yeah, they're just skimming it. Like, they're really just skimming it. I'm wondering if it's actually going to be enough. I guess it doesn't need to be saturated. It just needs to be able to wick. In any case, it says then take out 3 rock wool cubes from the net, break it apart, place 2 seeds in the middle of each, gently squeeze the pieces together and place it in the middle of your net pot with the remaining rock wool. plug in the pump and mount the light 6 inches above the grow garden. Okay, so we're going to now do this thing with the rock wool. Some people find that rock wool can be itchy. If you're one of these people, I'd recommend that you put on some rubber gloves at this point, or nitrile gloves, just to prevent that from happening. I'm going to move forward without them. I've worked with rock wool before and I don't have any type of skin reactions from it. So I feel safe enough that I'm just going to do this without that. So the next step for me now is to fill these cups as they are in place, half filled with the growing medium. So I followed through the first part where we have to fill the pots half filled with the rock wool. They tell you then to dip it into the solution, but the problem is that it's only meant to wick from the bottom, so it doesn't really wick that well initially. So they tell you you need to wet it. So in order to do that, they say dip it in the water in the strong box. So it's a little bit awkward because you have to then lift up each one of these with the rock wool and put it down inside, dip this one down inside the strong box and fill this up with water, and then it's going to be easier for us to actually just pour this on top of the rock wool to wet the rock wool rather than trying to fool around with taking the lid off. I just found that this was easier, not necessarily better, just easier for me in my situation, so I wouldn't have to keep taking the lid off. Alright, so these are half full now, you can see here, and I wetted this one earlier. So the next step now is to wet them down. And that's it. So in step number 5, it actually says put the pots in the insert holes in the yellow lid. Ensure the bottom of the net pots are skimming the water in the grow garden. It's an important part because without these pots skimming the water, there's no way for that wicking action to happen. So as it happens, it seems that the holes in the top of the strong box are a little tight, and when you push them down, they stay down initially. But because these cups, you see, they're tapered, what happens is they start to slip back upwards again. So for example, this one here, which I had placed in all the way down, and it was skimming, is now almost 3/8 of an inch above. They slowly work their way up. So that is a little problem here because it assumes that this thing is kind of sitting down, and these are all a little bit variable, which means that 3 inches from the top is not quite enough water in order to do it. So I'm going to have to add some extra water to ensure that these are actually wicking properly. So I'm going to pull in my hose and I'm going to fill that now before I actually move on to the next step. Alright, so the next thing involves planting seeds. So there are a couple of varieties of things here that I think are going to actually take too long. I typically grow things here in the greenhouse that have a harvest time somewhere around 50 to 55 days. Luckily this spinach is 45 to 55 days. This came with the kit. We have a dwarf Siberian kale, once again 55 days, 60 days, but we'll be able to harvest kind of baby kale before then. So I'm going to use these two as well as seeds that I get from another vendor. This is actually a mustard called Fungin, which we love to grow because it actually grows really quick. It grows great in the greenhouse. It grows much quicker than lettuce, and it's a great replacement for lettuce on things like sandwiches and whatnot. So this part is actually like the rest of it, fairly simple. We're going to show you guys now what we do. So we take 3 rock wool cubes, and in the middle of each cube we're going to place a seed or 2. Now they recommend using 2 in the middle of each one, so each pot would have 6 seeds. The germination rate on these seeds is actually pretty darn good, so I'm not going to bother with that. I'm actually just going to use 2 seeds in each one. So here we go. We got our seed placed in the middle of that little square, and now it's all kind of mushed together, and that's it. So that's what we're planting right there. It's basically a piece of rock wool that has the seeds into it. So we're going to do that 3 times. So they go now into the pot. So I'm going to place them right here, and they just go in there like that, and whatever moisture's around now is getting wicked up through the rock wool. So we'll just wait and see now when these guys germinate before we end up turning any light or anything on. So I'm going to go through now, and I'm going to do that for, like I said, these 3 different varieties, and then basically the setup is done. So it's pretty simple. All right, so that was pretty easy to set up. All we did, like I said, was pull apart these little cubes, stick a few seeds in the middle of each one, and then poke it down into the middle of the pot. Just make sure that the pots are nice and damp and all the rock wool is saturated with fluid. And we're going to do a quick check over now to make sure that the bottom of these are all touching so that they're wicking properly, and it looks like they are. When you pick it up, you can see if it actually starts to pull on the water below. So it looks like we're good. So that's it. That's all was to it. Basically, you know, you fill it, you add some nutrients, you add some rock wools to the cups, set up the air pump, plant your seeds, you're ready to go. Now, it doesn't recommend that you use any light right yet, so we're not going to. We end up with enough daylight in here anyway. It does say that keep it lit for at least 8 to 12 hours per day. We may or may not need to use a light. I'm probably going to put it on a timer just to extend daylight a little bit here, because we are kind of still in the middle of winter. It does say once your seeds sprout, it's time to turn on the light. I mean, these particular varieties of seeds don't need light in order to sprout. So we're just going to follow the instructions on this one. We're going to get around to setting up this light in a little while, and probably in the next few days or so. So we are going to set up the light. It's probably going to be a few days or so before we do it, and then we'll be able to see if anything is germinated around the same time. There are a few things that we changed up in terms of the way we did things, because I found the whole thing with taking the lid off the box a little bit awkward. So I decided that I would actually water in the cups with some of the solution from the box. It made it a little bit easier and simpler. We've had this hydroponics set up here on the go now around 6 or 7 days, and I'm actually quite pleased with the results. So you'll notice, well, the first thing up, as usual, is the Fungin. It's a crazy prolific grower. You know, as long as it's above 0, it seems to germinate always really, really well. I've quickly done an inspection on the other varieties. There's some kale, spinach and stuff in here, and the seeds actually have germinated, and they're sending out that little tap root that's going down. But like I said, Fungin, always a great producer, and the first one up. With the cover on and such small amount of surface area, there's not a whole lot of water evaporates in this. All the cups are pretty much still touching the water below, so I haven't needed to do any kind of a refill. And you can see kind of water dripping from some of these, so that's good. Yeah, there's some more seeds germinating in this one. So yeah, so overall, so far, pretty easy, pretty simple. As you can see, I still don't have the light set up, but I haven't really needed it. The days have been fairly bright. So it's been another 7 days, and the growth on these seedlings has been pretty good. So since then, I've actually set up the stand. I've had to move this down a bit. The stand was a little too high. The stand is not actually in the setup that they recommend, but it actually fits up here on the crate actually pretty good. So I'll probably leave it like this for now. The LED strip is pretty bright. I don't have it plugged in here right now because I'm moving a few things around. But it can be hooked up to the timer that came with the kit, but I opted for right now just to use the on and off switch that's here on the cord. That's been sufficient, as you know, I'm out here at least twice a day anyway. So overall, this is a great little kit for anybody who wants to get into some hydroponics. You know, number one, it was really, really easy to set up. Number two, the instructions for seeding, all that stuff, really, really simple to follow. it comes with everything that you need. I mean, there's the grow medium, which is a rock wool. It comes with your seeds. It comes with a light stand. I mean, and the light stand, you can even adjust the height of that light bar. So, they put a lot of thought into this really simple system. For anybody that's never really grown anything, you could really start off and have no green thumb and really actually get this thing to work. Now, is it scalable? Yeah. I mean, you could set this up in a greenhouse and you could potentially just keep adding modules here, and it could be a scalable system whereby you don't want to fool with soil and whatnot no more. The cost of these things are oftentimes very, very expensive actually, in order to get a good production going in a greenhouse and ensuring that your soil is good. Here you can grow healthy plants. I mean, these plants here, they look nice and healthy, and all it takes is water, and you have plenty of that at home. Great little system. By all means, check them out. Sucseed.ca, Succeed.ca. So that's it for this video. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dave Goodyear. I'm here at the Homestead of Flat Rock. You can reach out and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FR_homestead, and on Facebook at the Homestead of Flat Rock. Spring is in the air and the days are getting longer. We got lots more coming here on the channel. Subscribe down below. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and we'll see you guys next time.